how to extract value information using pandas in Python. We're going to work with date type variables to learn different methods to extract information. How to extract month, how to get years, how to get days from different variables. We will learn different methods to get information. Let's create new columns and add them to our data frames. Let's see next. Let's discuss how to extract dates from data in Python using pandas. Now, we're going to discuss different methods. The fastest method to create data, of course, is creating some list, and then as we have here. Let's first run our line to use pandas. Next, here to my right, you can discover that we have some console information already, and then we're going to create a data. Then we're going to have two new lists, that is dates, in this format, as you can see, and course, just for joining this information into one single data frame. Now we have two lists here, as you can see, and something important for this video. Remember that we're going to work with dates, but however, you can see here that we have a list of strings, actually, as you will discover. Why? Because once we create our data frame, check what happened before. I'm going to use the function datetime from pandas. You can see datetime. Dates is just a list of information, strings, as I mentioned before. Now we have here PD from pandas, datetime, and you will see what happened to the variable temp. And we're gonna compare with date. Now you can see here that even if temp is coming from the variable dates, this one has changed to datetime index. Now we have transformed each of these values into data time. Now let's create here one column with dates. As you can see here, is the same information that I use for temp, but I'm going to show you that we can even create directly. Okay, I could insert temp, but I'm gonna use it right here because we can do it in once. And now courses is just gonna be in the index. You can skip this part and just use the usual index with numbers starting from 0 in Python. But I'm gonna put the courses and insert the date. That's the name of our column in this data frame that I'm gonna call df. And now let's check the first observations. You can see here, insert the time. Now, when we come here to our data frame, you just make a click, and as you can see, we have our data frame. The first one is in index, remember, and inserted date is each of our dates. Now we have created one data type variable. Now let's see how to extract variable information. The first method is using string for time. As you can see here, TT. This is important. This is very important. It's another function from pandas. However, you can see that I'm going to add 3f time, and I'm going to tell Python which part. Well, percentage y, of course, is going to mean year. So I want to change this information and extract only the year from that time. Okay. Of course, for using DT, we have to use the dot coming from some pandas data type. So you can see here, df and y. Let's check what it's gonna do. And here you go. You have some numbers here. Pay attention to this data object. Okay, this is important. Data type object. We're gonna discuss that further. Now here, I'm gonna save it in one new column. And now you can see here, we have a new column called year and month. Well, of course, if I don't want the years, I'm going to a month. So n, lowercase m, and we run. Now we have our month. Okay, check. Now we print the f. There you go. We have two new columns coming from one single column, inserted date. Okay, that's how we extract information in our first method. However, as I mentioned before, check that when I create this little thing here, we had object type. Okay, now let's compare with other function. Now we're going to use directly. I'm not going to use strf time. I'm going to use year. Anyways, I'm going to use dt because it's data time function from pandas. Now I'm just going to use year. Let's check this part. Now I use it and it's the same inserted date time and I run. Oh yes. What's going on here? Check now what is that date type. Int64, that means an integer. Well, when we were using strf time, it was object time. That means that they are two different kinds of data type. Well, which one suits better for you working the years with as numbers or as objects? Of course, most of the times you're going to use it as integer. And the same, of course, is going to happen to month. So let's run all this part and we'll compare. Okay, here you go, month, year. If you remember, month in the past had some zeros next to each one-digit number. Okay, and now let's discover here. Something else has changed too. If you recall, these two columns were in different colors. Why? Because they were objects. But now we have values, numerical values, and then our data frame can show us different interval of colors. That's how you discover that we are working with different types. Now, a third method should be, well, just using inserted date year. Remember this that you had in the past. Now, you cannot work directly year without the function dt, as here, remember, dt, that's what you have to change it, you see? But there are other ways too. Well, if you don't remember dt, well, you can change this to date type index. And if we change it in the past, now we want to using datetime index here, and it's more, of course, more code than just using dt. But if you don't recall this part, just use datetime index, and you will discover what's going to happen now. Okay, and year, I just run. There you go. And of course, we can use day. Even here, we can use dt year day, and let's discover and compare all this. Now you have 3 new columns using date type index as well, and you compare that we have the same information than before. Now let's see. Yeah, here you go. Check that these new 3 columns using datetime index are numerics directly. Of course, for cleaning purposes, it's better to use dt directly. That is the other way. And let's see our two new methods. Where one is gonna be dt period. Here we're gonna use dt period, and we're gonna call period. It's important to see that we're gonna call this period function, and we're gonna say month by month in this case. Okay, month year, month. But it's important to notice that I called this new column month year. Why? Because it's not this period. It's not the single month, January, February, and so on. No, it's gonna be associated with certain year. Let's run this, and we're gonna check and print the F. There you go. You see here that this new column is a period of time, however, is associated with a year. Then, if you want to use month and year, this could be one that works very good for you. And let's discover. This case is not numerical, of course, because this one is different than this method here to how to output the information. Now, in the last one, we can use apply as well, and using lambda function just to discover that you see we are going to use back extra time, the first method, and you're going to tell pandas which information we want to extract, B and Y. Here we go, and we have the month and the year. For all of these values in inserted date, you're going to apply this method. At the end is going to be to period. Let's compare it, and you go. The letter B is different than the lowercase m. In this case, is going to give you the string format for our month. Have now to compare. There you go. Oh, month, year, and we have a different way to print our information. Then, which method you want to use to extract information from data types variables? The one that works better for you for your application. This is Pandas and working with Python.